Welcome to our guidance video explaining importing and exporting guidance post-Brexit. I'm Garance from the COI team here at Soil Association, and I will be guiding you through the requirements for importing into GB, importing into Northern Ireland, and exporting from GB to the EU and Northern Ireland. So the Brexit transition period has ended, and we are now we've now left the EU. So from the 1st of January, we will be referring to GB as England, Wales, Scotland, and the Channel Islands, and that is now not in the Customs Union. Northern Ireland, however, is both in the EU and the GB Customs Union. And so this free trade agreement that was reached at the end of last year now allows operators to export to the EU in Northern Ireland, and it is now being listed the UK under Annex 3 of the organic regulations. So that means that GB is now retaining the EU regs into UK law, and this will make freedom of movement slightly easier. And I will be talking to you through the paperwork that will be needed to ensure that that carries on. So firstly, I will talk you through the GB import process into two parts. So the first part is importing from non-EU countries into GB. This has changed and will no longer be using the Traces NT portal. Instead, we'll be using a GB paper COI, and this will be required from the 1st of January. So any imports coming in now on the seas and due to arrive in the GB will need this paper COI. It's owned by DEFRA, so any kind of questions related to importing and sort of how it works will be referred to by DEFRA. They control the form. And many people have asked how we get hold of a copy. This is on our importing section on our website. So the importers do need to hold organic certification, and it does need to be a GB registered address and a physical presence so that it can be inspected. That's really important to ensure that you're ensure that that is in place. You also, like previously, will need to have your products approved and your trading schedule, and you will need to submit all the paperwork to ensure that that can be verified by your certification officer. The paperwork is then completed, sent to your exporters in the non-EU countries for their certification body to approve. And then once that has been approved, the goods can leave, and then you can, once the goods are in the water and you know roughly when they're due to arrive in the UK, you can inform the port health authorities that you have a consignment of organic arriving into GB. We've had many questions on whether you can use a PDF to clear the consignment, and we've got confirmation from DEFRA that a PDF copy is fine to clear the goods, providing you've notified the Port Health Authority that they are arriving, and also that you provide an original paper copy in time within 10 days of the good clearing. So a lot of people ask, well, where do we send the goods, the paper copy to? And that will be the address of the clearance place that you have decided to clear the goods. So for example, if I was importing from the US and I wanted to clear my goods in Southampton, I would ensure that I notify Southampton at least 48 hours in advance using their pre-notification system, which can be found on their website. And then once I'd used my PDF copy to clear the goods, I would ensure that the paper copy was sent via courier to Southampton for them to sign. And once they have signed it, hopefully they send it back to you, and then you can sign it. If you're the first consignee as well, you'll be signing box 21. If, however, you use a third-party warehouse and they store the goods for you and you're just the importer, ensure that that third-party warehouse does sign the COI in the first consignee section and send you the paper copy so you can keep it on file. Do remember that this will need to be kept on file for inspection purposes. So this process is going to be exactly the same for importing from EU countries. However, to ensure that companies can get ready for that new change, and due to the fact that our borders are so close, there is a grace period from the EU into GB for paper COIs, and therefore this will not be required until the 1st of July 2021. More details of this can be found on our importing section of our website, and we'll be answering any questions you might have around this. You can contact the COI inbox for more information. So now I will talk you through importing into Northern Ireland, because there is now a bit of a nuance and a shift that has happened. As Northern Ireland, like I mentioned earlier, is now in both customs union, it will require a change of procedure. So it will now require you to use a Traces NT portal and a COI on that. Importers in Northern Ireland will now need to hold organic certification if they are importing, and they need to ensure that the goods are certified on their trading schedule, and that when creating the COI, it is done before the goods leave the third country. The GB is now considered as a third country to Northern Ireland, so that's one kind of area that everyone needs to kind of understand, is that GB is considered as a non-EU country. When you're creating a COI, you will need to provide some evidence when so that CBs can verify that the weights and all the information is correct. This can be a packing list, a commercial invoice, some freight or shipping information, but just be aware that those kinds of documents will be required. A lot of companies are now being made aware that if you're receiving the goods but you're not the importer, you're just receiving them, this term is called the first consignee. That's the first legal person to receive it in Northern Ireland, will need to hold a valid organic certification. So that's a kind of an additional requirement for importing into Northern Ireland. And this applies not just to food, but it also applies to feed, seed, and livestock as well. So this is really important to kind of understand that it is required for food, feed, and seed. Many of you will have heard that there is a trusted trader scheme that was released at the end of last year, and the deadline has been extended. So if this is relevant to you, so it's for Northern Irish operators feeding into a supply chain that help supermarkets, there is an allowance, and it will give you a bit of kind of a grace period for 3 months to allow you to get up to speed with all the paperwork that will be needed. More information on the details of that can be found on our Brexit hub, but that is an option if you're feeding into a supply chain for retailing. So if you're sending goods from the EU into Ireland or Northern Ireland, you now no longer need any paperwork, and it is considered part of the EU customs union and can move freely. So therefore, as GB is now a third country, it will require paperwork for any exports carried to the EU or to Ireland and Northern Ireland, and this will use traces. We in the GB will have the roles as exporters and producers, and we will no longer be able to approve importers and operators. The EU COI will need to be in place before the goods leave the third country, so before they leave GB, and this will need to be validated by us in the COI team at Salt Association. Now, we understand that sometimes you might not have all of the relevant information before your goods are due for collection, and therefore you can create an EU COI on traces based on the draft shipping information. So you could submit the certificate on draft net weights, draft freight information, and clearance points, provided that you do update us as soon as you have the final information. We can provisionally approve the COI, the goods can then carry on their journey and move towards Calais or Belfast or Dublin, wherever you're choosing to clear them. And that can then kind of continue. And then once you have that final information, if you email the COI inbox with that final information, quoting your COI number, we can then update it for you. Again, the big kind of difference that will now be required is that your EU customers and Irish and Northern Irish customers will all need to hold organic certification and be approved on traces as importers. Now, you won't be able to use your GB registered address for that. You do need to make sure that it is an EU-based company, that they are certified by their own certification body. If it's in the EU, they will need to hold certification with an EU-approved certification body. If it's in Ireland, it will have to be an Irish-approved certification body. However, in Northern Ireland, we can certify. So that is the difference there. Just like you've heard in my previous slides, you do need to also ensure that your products are approved on your trading schedule and that you're ready to, that will allow you to start exporting. Again, the notification system will be down to the importer who's buying the goods from you in the EU or Northern Ireland or Ireland. They will need to notify their relevant port health authorities. And I'm sure details on how to do that would be at the relevant port health authority websites. So this is the big change that's now happened as a result of us leaving the EU, is this requirement. This requirement is from the 1st of January, so has already been in place, and it is for every single shipment of any kind of food, drink, seed and feed. So it's really important that this is carried out on the Traces portal, and it is in your interest to ensure it's done before the goods leave, as certain port health authorities might decide not to accept your products as organic. Again, more details of this can be found on our website, where we have a step-by-step guide on getting registered to the Traces portal and an exporting guidance, which will talk you through everything I've just covered. So that's the exporting section of the Brexit Hub website. So this matrix is just to really summarize what I've been talking about and to really have a holding place so that you can see whether a paper copy is needed or not. There are a lot of different kind of requirements due to COVID coming in, adding to a lot of confusion. So if we follow the matrix, GB to GB, no paperwork needed. GB to Northern Ireland, you need a Traces COI. And because of the temporary COVID regulations, this can all be done digitally. So a paper copy does not need to be presented, and it can all be done on the Traces portal. This is in place till the 1st of February 2021, after which point we are hoping the Commission will extend this COVID regulation. If it decides it won't continue that temporary COVID regulation, at Soil Association, we've applied for the digital seal, which will allow us to continue to approve Traces EU COIs electronically. Exports from Northern Ireland to GB, no paperwork is needed, as Northern Ireland is in the GB Customs Union as well as the EU, so there's no requirements to that. And Northern Ireland does not require any paperwork to EU countries. EU countries to GB, as we saw, that will require a paper copy completed before the goods leave, but this is not required until the 1st of July 2021. EU countries to Northern Ireland, again, no COI required, and EU to EU, nothing required. It can move freely around. Non-EU countries to GB will require a GB paper COI, and it will be required from now You can use a signed PDF copy to clear the goods, but you do need to ensure that a paper original copy is signed by Port Health within 10 days of the goods clearing. Non-EU countries to Northern Ireland will require a Traces COI, and again, there is a temporary COVID regulation, which means that it's all electronic. And again, non-EU countries to EU will require a Traces COI. So just to summarise, exporting out of GB, as this is a new process, everyone in the supply chain does need to be certified and also registered on the Traces NT portal. Sole Association certification approves roles in Traces now as exporters and producers or processors, and we can also approve importers and operators based in Northern Ireland. However, at Sole Association, we can no longer approve importers and operators who have a GB registered address. The portal will no longer let us approve it, and this is because we've left the EU. If you are applying to use Traces, and you're based in GB, please only choose exporters and producers. As we discussed, a COI needs to be completed for every single shipment you're carrying out to the EU and Northern Ireland, and this will need to be carried out and sent to us for approval before the goods leave. And you must ensure that your customers hold organic certification in the EU, and that also extends to the warehousing. If they are receiving the goods and they are listed as the first consignee, they do need to hold organic certification. So that's a brief overview of the new requirements for importing and exporting. We've had many questions on both types of paperwork needed. So I'll briefly cover some of the EU frequently asked questions, and then I'll go on to the GB related ones. And I'll just talk in general about some of the scenarios that we've received where you might need to be aware of. So just to recap, can you get your Traces operator importer role approved? No, that's no longer possible to get approval in Traces with those roles if you're based in GB. We are no longer part of the EU, we no longer use Traces for importing in GB, and therefore we cannot continue to approve those roles. If you were based in Northern Ireland, however, we would, providing you hold certification with us and you had a valid in-date license, we would go ahead and approve you in the system. And who goes on to create the COI in the portal? Well, that is very much dependent on the roles in Traces, and there are very much two roles that allows the access to creating a COI, and that is either the exporter or the importer. I would recommend that if it is the exporter, that it is the importer creating the COI, you communicate quite clearly with the exporting company, as they will mostly have all of the shipping information. So it's whatever is easier for your supply chain, but there are some requirements for mandatory fields that you might not have the information for, and therefore it might slow the process down. Do we need a COI for every single shipment? Yes, you do. You do need a COI for every shipment of organic food, feed, seed, and livestock. And there is some more information on our website on what is called a base of extract. So that's if you're sending a big consignment across and that then gets split into several different shipment or sub consignments to different customers. That is an option for you to do, and more information can be found either on the Traces website or on our exporting page on the GB hub. The other thing I just wanted to kind of cover around EU COIs, which is quite a new, which is quite new for a lot of companies, is if you are based in the GB and you have a GB registered address and you're certified in GB, that address cannot be used for importing into Ireland, Northern Ireland, or the EU. You would need to work with a customer who had certification in either of those 3 countries and who was organically certified. So if that's you're sort of sending to your sub entity, a company sub entity, and you've set up a VAT registered address in Ireland, that won't be sufficient for organics. What you do need to make sure is that you have a physical present that is inspectable, that can be inspected by the certification body of that member state. So that's really important to understand, because that will otherwise stop your supply chain being able to export to Ireland, Northern Ireland, or the EU. If you have any further questions after watching this, please do email the COI at Sol Association inbox, and we'll try our best to help. So that's just one new requirement, just to make everyone aware. Moving on to GB. So this is very much something that the GB DEFRA team owns, so we own this form. So there is quite a lot of information due to be published by DEFRA on the completion of this. We have some explanatory notes on our website which should help in the completing of it. So if you want a copy of the paperwork, please do go on our importing section of the Brexit Hub and download it from there. There is also an FAQ from DEFRA that's been uploaded on that section as well. I think I've covered about whether the original paper copy needs to travel with the goods, but just to recap, it does not physically need to travel with the goods if not able to. It can be presented at a later date, providing it's within 10 days of your goods clearing. Again, who completes the COI? Well, this is typically the exporter, as they should have all the information. So if you're exporting from the US, it would be the company in the US who was selling the goods to the GB importer, and would fill that information in, send it to their control body in the US to sign and stamp, and then send a PDF copy to you. The goods could leave, and then the paper copy could be sent after that. We've had a lot of information about, we've had a lot of questions rather about the serial number and who generates that, as Traces used to generate the electronic unique identifying number for the paperwork. That is now a new requirement for the CBs to generate. So you'll get a unique serial number based on that exporter CB giving a new unique number. So that won't have to be completed by yourselves. That will be for the certification body. Again, box 19, which is the custom warehouse information. We've had lots of questions on whether that needs to be completed. That most of the time does not need any information in that box. It is purely if you're using it for transiting the goods. So if the goods were passing through, not being opened, not being tampered with, but being kind of stored in a custom warehouse while they transited through, at this point, that's when you would notify box and fill in box 19. The port health authorities have been made aware that this is an ongoing new process, and there is an email address for you to contact if you're coming across some issues, which if you are interested in receiving that email address, please do let me know at COI@solassociation.org, and I can forward you some details with extra support from DEFRA. So that summarizes this short explainer video for the new requirements of importing and exporting. I'll be doing slightly more of these related to traces, getting yourself set up on the portal and completing a COI. But for the time being, please do look at our website and contact Sol Association, the COI team, if you have any further questions. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you enjoy this explainer video.